Have you ever wondered, what does love truly mean? How can we build a relationship that is not only lasting but also fulfilling? Love does not fade in an instant, it gradually diminishes through small daily actions. A man who once loved you passionately, who cared for you deeply, suddenly becomes indifferent and distant without a clear reason. He no longer texts as often, avoids spending time with you, and doesn't even bother to notice what you are doing or where you are. Is this just a temporary phase, or is it a clear sign that he is slowly drifting away from you? Let's uncover the warning signs that a man is becoming emotionally distant before it's too late. Welcome to Sophia's Knowledge, and my name is Sophia. This is where lessons about love will help you understand this complex emotion more deeply. In today's video, we will explore 7 clear signs that a man is slowly becoming distant from you. This is an eye-opening discussion that may change the way you view love in your life. Prepare yourself, because the insights and deep perspectives you are about to discover may make you reflect on yourself and the relationships around you. Before we begin, find a quiet space, put on your headphones, and relax. Let your mind fully immerse in these shared thoughts and enjoy every moment. Are you ready to uncover new perspectives on love? Let's begin with Sophia right now. Sign 1. He texts and calls less than before. When silence starts to create distance. In a relationship, communication is the thread that connects two people. Morning texts, goodnight calls, or even small daily conversations help strengthen the bond. But when a man starts texting and calling less than before, it may be a sign that his feelings are gradually fading. From caring habits to unexplained coldness. At first, you might not notice much when he takes longer to reply. You tell yourself that maybe he is busy or dealing with something. But gradually, the conversations become less frequent, and messages are no longer responded to with the same enthusiasm. You text him, and he replies with short, uninterested messages. You call him, and he says he's busy and will call back, but never does. If he used to be the one who always initiated conversations, but now you realize that if you don't reach out first, the two of you might not talk for days, it can leave you feeling uneasy, wondering if he has changed. Are his busy excuses really valid? One of the most common reasons men give when they text less is, "I'm too busy." It's true that everyone gets busy with work, family, or personal issues, but if someone truly cares about you, they will always make an effort to send a quick message or at least let you know what's going on. In reality, sending a message only takes a few seconds. If he used to spend hours talking to you but now can't even spare a few seconds to reply, the problem may not be that he's too busy, but that he no longer prioritizes you. When you have to try too hard to keep the conversation going. Another sign of emotional distance is when you realize that you are always the one starting conversations. If you don't text first, he remains silent. When you do, he only responds briefly, without enthusiasm, without asking questions, and without showing the same interest as before. It feels as if you are trying to hold on to a conversation while he just wants to end it as soon as possible. If this happens often, it could mean that he is losing interest in the relationship. Texting is no longer enjoyable. Before, texting him brought you joy and excitement. He used sweet words, teased you, and shared small moments from his day. But now, his messages are short and distant, and sometimes, you even feel like you're bothering him. The affectionate words and expressions of care gradually disappear. This change is not random, it is often a sign that he is no longer as excited about you as he once was. Comparing how he texts others. If you have the chance to observe how he texts other people, you may see a clear difference. If he says he's busy but still has time to chat happily with friends or be active on social media, then the issue might not be that he's too busy, it might be that he no longer wants to spend time on you. A man who truly cares about you will not make you feel forgotten. If he has time for other things but neglects you, it means that you are no longer a priority in his heart. What should you do when you notice this sign? When you notice that he is texting and calling less, instead of drowning in anxiety, try to calmly observe whether this change is temporary. He may genuinely be busy or dealing with personal issues that make him less in the mood for conversations. However, if this cold behavior continues, have an open and honest conversation with him. Instead of blaming or pressuring him, gently ask if something is wrong and whether there is anything in the relationship that makes him uncomfortable. The key is to listen to his response. If he truly still cares about you, he will try to explain and make changes. But if he avoids the topic, refuses to talk, or makes no effort to improve the situation, then it may be time for you to reconsider the relationship. Don't become the only one trying. A relationship should be a mutual effort. If you are the only one constantly reaching out, waiting anxiously for a reply that never comes, then maybe you are investing your feelings in the wrong person. Don't be afraid to walk away from a relationship where you are no longer valued. A man who truly loves you will never make you doubt his feelings. If he becomes distant, remember that you deserve someone who is willing to give you time and genuine attention. A change in texting and calling habits doesn't always mean he has stopped loving you, but if this comes along with other signs of emotional distance, it could be a warning. Be observant enough to recognize it, brave enough to face it, and strong enough to make the best decision for yourself. Have you ever been in a similar situation? If so, please share your story in the comments. I look forward to hearing your interesting experiences. And if you find this content useful, please like and share to spread the message to more people. Thank you for your support. Let's continue together. Sign 2. He no longer cares about your feelings. When indifference replaces care. One of the clearest signs that a man is becoming distant is when he no longer cares about your feelings. If he used to pay attention to the little things that made you happy or sad, but now he seems unconcerned about your emotions, this is a warning sign. Care is not just shown through words but also through actions. When the man beside you becomes indifferent and neglectful of how you feel, it is not just a change in behavior, it is a sign that his feelings for you may have faded. You're sad, but he doesn't notice. In a healthy relationship, when you feel down or have a bad day, a man who truly loves you will be the first to notice. He may not say anything immediately, but he will try to comfort you, check in on you, or at least show that he cares about your emotions. However, when feelings change, he may stop noticing these things. You feel down, but he doesn't ask what's wrong. You try to share, but he just nods dismissively or doesn't react at all. The concern slowly disappears, and you realize that you are feeling lonely even within your own relationship. You're happy, but he no longer shares in your joy. Love isn't just about overcoming difficulties together, it's also about sharing happiness. When you accomplish something or feel excited about something in your life, you naturally want the man beside you to celebrate with you. But instead of reacting with enthusiasm like before, he now responds indifferently or doesn't even pay attention to what you're saying. If he once cheered for you and encouraged you, but now you feel like you're talking to someone who doesn't care, it's a sign that his emotional investment in the relationship has diminished. During arguments, he no longer tries to resolve issues. Every relationship has conflicts, but what matters is whether both partners are willing to work through them together. A man who loves you will always try to understand you, listen to your thoughts, and work with you to resolve issues. However, when he stops caring about your feelings, every argument seems pointless. You try to express your thoughts, but he remains indifferent, unwilling to listen, or even avoids the conversation entirely. If he used to worry when you were upset or angry, but now even your tears don't concern him, this is a major red flag. Questions that show care begin to disappear. Simple questions like, "How was your day? Is your work going well?" or "Are you tired?" may seem trivial, but they are small gestures of care in a relationship. A man who truly loves you will always want to know how you're feeling, what you're going through, and whether you're happy. But when he grows distant, these questions gradually vanish. He no longer remembers important meetings you have, nor does he check if you're under stress. Over time, you realize that you are becoming a stranger in his life. You feel like you're talking to a wall. When you try to share your emotions, instead of listening and understanding, he reacts with indifference or annoyance. He might ignore what you say or respond half-heartedly, as if just trying to end the conversation as quickly as possible. Even worse, he may see your sharing as an annoyance. If he once comforted you when you were struggling but now simply responds with a short, dismissive phrase like "oh, okay," it's clear that his level of care has changed. You have to try too hard to get his attention. You feel like you need to go out of your way to make him notice you, even resorting to pretending to be upset or intentionally causing drama just to get a reaction. But no matter what you do, he remains distant. If a man truly loves you, he would never let you feel neglected in the relationship. What should you do when you notice this sign? When you realize that the man beside you no longer cares about your feelings, don't rush to blame him or desperately try to hold on. Take some time to reflect on your relationship. Try having an open conversation with him. Sometimes, a change in attitude may stem from personal issues or work stress. If he still has feelings for you, he will recognize his lack of care and make an effort to change. If he avoids the conversation, refuses to respond, or acts like he doesn't care about what you're saying, this may be a sign that he no longer prioritizes you in his life. Most importantly, ask yourself, do you want to stay in a relationship where your emotions are no longer valued? A man who truly loves you will always pay attention to your feelings, even the smallest ones. If he no longer cares, consider whether he is still worthy of your love. Because in love, care is not a luxury, it is a necessity. If you are still watching the video, do not hesitate to comment continue. Leave your thoughts and questions below in the comment section. I look forward to hearing your opinions, and do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that Sophia has more motivation to create more good and meaningful videos. Let's continue together. Sign 3. Avoiding spending time with you. When being busy is just an excuse. In love, time is a crucial measure of care. A man who truly loves you will always try to make time for you, no matter how busy his life gets. But when a man starts to grow distant, he will gradually avoid dates, constantly use busyness as an excuse, or even disappear without a reason. If you notice that he no longer spends time with you as before, always finds excuses to avoid meeting up, and loses interest in moments together, then perhaps it's time to reevaluate this relationship. Dates become less frequent, or even stop altogether. Think back to the early days of your relationship. Back then, he was willing to put everything aside just to see you, even if only for a short while. He was excited to plan dates, sometimes even surprising you to make you happy. But now? You find yourself being the one who has to initiate outings. Without your suggestion, the two of you might never meet. He often says, "Let me check my schedule first," but then never brings it up again. When you ask about future plans, he only responds vaguely or changes the subject. Gradually, you start to feel like a stranger trying to insert yourself into his life. And the most painful part? He no longer feels excited about being with you. He always has a reason not to meet you. When a man wants to avoid you, he will come up with countless reasons not to meet. At first, they may seem legitimate, like work commitments, family matters, or feeling unwell. But over time, these excuses become increasingly unreasonable. He might tell you he's too tired to meet but then appears on social media, happily hanging out with friends. Or he claims to have important work, yet you see him making time for other things, just not for you. If a man truly loves you, he won't make you feel like an afterthought. He will want to see you, to spend time with you, even if it's just for a brief moment amidst his busy life. When he's with you, he always seems eager to leave. Another sign that he's becoming distant is that even when you do spend time together, he no longer enjoys it the way he used to. Instead of engaging in conversations, he constantly checks his phone, seems distracted, or even appears bored. He frequently finds excuses to cut the date short, saying he has urgent matters to attend to or coming up with reasons to leave. The moments that used to be special, like taking a walk, watching a movie, or having a meal together, no longer feel exciting. If a man truly values you, he won't just spend time with you, he will cherish every moment. When he keeps trying to shorten the time you spend together, it may mean he is losing interest in the relationship. Shared plans are gradually forgotten. In the past, you both might have planned trips together, explored new experiences, or simply made small plans like cooking together on weekends. But now, all these plans are postponed or forgotten. If you remind him of the plans you once made, he might say, "Let's think about it later when I have time," or "I'm not ready for that now." And of course, those promises never come true. A man who truly wants you in his future won't neglect shared plans. If he constantly delays or avoids them, he may be looking for a way to slowly exit the relationship without saying it outright. You feel like you have to beg for his time. Nothing is more heartbreaking than feeling like you have to beg your partner to spend time with you. You text him, asking when he's free, but he only gives vague replies. You try to adjust your schedule to fit his, yet he never does the same for you. A healthy relationship should never make you feel like you're begging for attention. If he truly wants to be with you, he will find a way to make time, rather than leaving you waiting. What should you do when you notice this sign? If you realize he is avoiding spending time with you, take a step back and assess the situation before making any decisions. Have an honest conversation with him. Instead of blaming or demanding, ask him gently why he no longer spends time with you like before. If he has a genuine reason and still cares about you, he will acknowledge his change in behavior and make an effort to improve. Observe his actions. Words are easy to say, but actions speak louder. If after your conversation, he still doesn't change and continues to ignore you, then perhaps it's time to seriously reconsider the relationship. Don't lose your self-worth. If you constantly have to chase after someone for their time and attention, then this is no longer a fulfilling love. A person who truly loves you will not make you feel abandoned in your own relationship. A man who loves you will always find ways to spend time with you, no matter how busy life gets. If he keeps avoiding you, making excuses not to meet, and no longer values the moments you share, then his feelings may no longer be the same. Don't stay in a relationship that makes you feel lonely. You deserve a love where you are cherished, prioritized, and truly loved. Sign 4. No more loving actions. When affection is no longer expressed. In love, words are important, but actions are the truest measure of emotions. A man who truly loves you will not only say that he loves you but will also show it through daily gestures of care, affection, and tenderness. However, when a man starts to grow distant, these loving actions begin to disappear. He no longer gives you spontaneous hugs, gentle kisses, or warm hand-holding. Closeness and intimacy become a luxury, and you start to feel like just a familiar person, nothing more, nothing less. So how can you clearly recognize this sign? Hugs and hand-holding become unfamiliar. When a man loves you, he will always find ways to touch you, even through small gestures like holding your hand, stroking your hair, or hugging you from behind. These are ways he expresses love without needing to say it out loud. But when feelings fade, these actions disappear as well. Before, he always held your hand while walking, but now he walks ahead, keeps a distance, or puts his hands in his pockets. Before, when sitting next to each other, he would naturally place his hand on your thigh or wrap his arm around you, but now he sits farther away, avoiding physical contact. Before, he hugged you while sleeping, but now he turns his back or keeps a distance on the bed. These small changes may seem insignificant, but in reality, they are clear signs that he no longer feels the need for closeness with you like before. Kisses become superficial or disappear completely. Kissing is not just a sign of love but also a way to connect two people. A gentle kiss on the forehead, a soft touch of the lips, or even a passionate kiss all reflect emotions and the bond in a relationship. But when he no longer loves you as before, kisses also become rare. If they happen, they feel empty, more like a habit than a heartfelt action. You may notice, he avoids your kisses or only responds reluctantly. When you initiate a kiss, he no longer pulls you closer or holds you like before. The spontaneous, random kisses he used to give you are now gone. When a man no longer wants to kiss you, it is a sign that his feelings for you have faded. No more small acts of care. Love is not just shown through grand gestures but also through the little things in everyday life. A man who loves you will always have thoughtful, subtle acts of care, brushing your hair when he sees you're tired, covering you with a blanket when you fall asleep, helping you fasten your seatbelt when you get in the car, sending you a goodnight message even when he's busy. But when his feelings fade, these actions slowly disappear. You start to feel that you are no longer cared for as before, and everything begins to feel cold. He no longer wants to protect you. A man who truly loves you will always have the instinct to protect you, even in the smallest situations. He will notice when you feel unsafe, be ready to step in when you face difficulties, or simply make sure you get home safely at night. But when he becomes indifferent, you will notice a change in his behavior. When you have a problem, he no longer worries or tries to help you. When someone hurts you, he no longer stands up for you or defends you as he used to. When you feel tired or sick, he no longer cares or takes care of you. Protection is not just a responsibility but also a way he expresses love. If he no longer wants to do that, perhaps in his heart, you no longer hold the same importance as before. He no longer shows tenderness towards you. A man who loves you will always have moments of tenderness just for you. He may be tough with others, but when he's with you, he will have his own ways of showing affection. However, when he becomes distant, those moments disappear as well. No more gentle, loving words. No more warm, affectionate looks. No more playful moments or shared laughter. You feel that the distance between you two is growing, not just physically but emotionally as well. What should you do when you notice this sign? If you realize that he no longer shows loving actions toward you, take a serious look at your relationship. Have an honest conversation. Sometimes, changes in how someone expresses love may not mean they've stopped loving you. It could be due to life pressures or personal issues. Try talking to him to understand what's really going on. Observe his behavior. If he truly loves you but has been unintentionally neglectful, he will make an effort to change after your conversation. But if he continues to be indifferent, it may be a sign of an emotional distance that cannot be repaired. Don't forget your self-worth. A relationship is only meaningful when both people make an effort to nurture it. If you constantly have to ask for love that should come naturally, ask yourself if this is still the relationship you want to stay in. In the end, love is not just expressed through words but through small daily actions. If a man no longer shows loving gestures toward you, it is a clear sign that his feelings are changing. You deserve a love where you don't have to doubt or worry about whether the other person still loves you. If someone no longer cherishes you, be strong enough to walk away and find a love that truly values you. Sign 5. Frequently irritable and unreasonably annoyed. When love gives way to frustration. In a healthy relationship, patience and understanding play an essential role. When love is still strong, a man will be willing to tolerate, listen, and be gentle with you, even during stressful times. However, when feelings start to fade, tenderness disappears, replaced by frequent irritability and unreasonable annoyance. You begin to notice that he gets angry more easily than before. Small things that he used to ignore now become reasons for him to blame and be annoyed with you. You feel like you're walking on a thin rope, constantly worrying about when he will get upset with you next. If this is what you're experiencing, it's time to seriously reflect on your relationship. Sweet words disappear, replaced by frustration. Before, he would patiently listen to you, gently joke with you, or even comfort you when you were sad. But now, he no longer cares about your feelings. When you ask about his day, he responds with curt or indifferent answers. When you share something upsetting, instead of comforting you, he bluntly tells you, "Stop overreacting." When you try to confide in him, he seems irritated, doesn't want to listen, or completely ignores you. This change shows that he no longer has the patience for you like before. When a man loves you, he will always give you attention and kindness. But when his feelings fade, everything you do may seem like a burden to him. Easily irritated over trivial matters. Do you notice that he gets annoyed with you for no reason? Small things that he never cared about before now become triggers for his frustration. You text him to check in, and he gets annoyed, saying, "You ask too much." You accidentally forget something small, and he complains, "Why are you always so careless?" You just want to have a conversation with him, but he snaps, "Stop bothering me." His anger is no longer just a natural reaction, it has become a habit. He may not even realize it, but this constant frustration indicates that his feelings for you are fading. Always finding ways to blame you. One of the clearest signs of emotional distance is when he constantly blames you for everything that goes wrong in the relationship. When the two of you argue, he no longer tries to resolve the issue but simply says, "It's your fault." When he has a bad day, instead of sharing with you, he takes out his frustration on you. When you try to do something nice for him, instead of appreciating it, he complains that you didn't do it the way he wanted. He no longer cares about maintaining the relationship or whether his actions hurt you. He just wants to hold you responsible for everything that happens, even when it's not your fault. No longer takes the initiative to make up after arguments. Before, even after an argument, he would try to make amends with you. But now, whenever the two of you fight, he doesn't bother explaining, doesn't care if you're upset, and sometimes even makes things worse to push you away. He can remain silent for hours, even days, after an argument without caring about how you feel. He no longer apologizes even when he knows he's wrong. He's okay with letting you cry and feel hurt without making any effort to comfort or reassure you. When a man still loves you, he won't let you suffer for too long. But when he no longer has feelings, he won't care about how you feel. You feel like you're enduring the relationship. A happy relationship is one where both people feel comfortable with each other, not one where you are constantly stressed and worried about your partner's moods. If you feel like you're enduring him every day, being extra careful with your words and actions to avoid making him angry, then you are no longer being valued the way you once were. You no longer feel happy when you're with him. Instead of warmth, you only feel pressure, anxiety, and exhaustion. This is a clear sign that your relationship is no longer healthy. What should you do if you notice this sign? If you're dealing with a man who is constantly irritable and annoyed with you, you need to reassess the relationship and find a way to address the issue. Talk to him directly. Ask him if something is bothering him that has caused this change in behavior. Sometimes, stress from work or life can affect his attitude. If he truly loves you, he will recognize his mistakes and adjust his behavior. Observe whether this is just temporary. If he is only irritable for a short period due to external stress, you may be able to understand and support him. But if this behavior has become a pattern, it means his feelings for you have changed. Don't tolerate it for too long. If you've tried but he continues to treat you badly, consider whether this relationship is worth continuing. You deserve to be loved, not to be an emotional punching bag for his frustrations. In the end, when a man still loves you, he will always want to make you happy, even when he's under pressure or feeling exhausted. But when love fades, he will no longer care about your feelings, and instead, he will become easily irritated and unreasonably annoyed. A relationship is only meaningful when both people feel happy. If you feel more exhaustion, stress, and pain than joy, maybe it's time to reconsider your path. You deserve a love that brings you peace and happiness, not one where you have to endure coldness and emotional pain from the person you love. Sign 6. He no longer gets jealous or cares about what you do. When indifference replaces love. In love, a little jealousy is always a sign that your partner still cares and is afraid of losing you. A man who truly loves you will always have a certain level of awareness about what you do, where you go, and whom you interact with. This doesn't mean he controls you, but rather, it's a natural expression of someone who is in love. However, when a man no longer loves you, he becomes indifferent, no longer jealous, or concerned about where you go or who you meet. You may stay out late with friends, chat with other men, or even create situations to see how he reacts, but all you get in return is his apathy. So how can you clearly recognize this sign? He no longer cares about where you go or what you do. In the past, whenever you went out, he always wanted to know where you were going, with whom, and what time you'd be back. Not because he wanted to control you, but because he cared about your safety. If you came home later than usual, he would worry and text to check on you. If you went out with friends, he would want to know if you had a good time. But now, things have changed. You go out, and he doesn't ask. You come home late, and he doesn't care. You travel alone or with someone else, and he doesn't even wonder about it. This indifference is not because he trusts you completely, but because he no longer sees you as an important part of his life. He no longer feels uncomfortable when you're close to other men. A man who loves you will always feel a little jealous when he sees you getting close to another man. He may not say it outright, but you can sense his discomfort through his eyes, attitude, or behavior. This is a natural instinct when someone is afraid of losing the person they love. However, when he no longer has feelings for you, it doesn't matter who you talk to or get close to, he won't react at all. You casually text a male colleague, and he doesn't even care. You mention another man in a conversation, and he just nods absent-mindedly. You try to test him by complimenting another man, but he doesn't seem to mind. This indifference is a clear sign that he no longer sees you as someone special in his heart. He no longer wants to keep you close. When a man loves you, he will always have a fear of losing you. If someone else tries to approach you, he will feel uneasy and make sure you know that you belong to him. But when he no longer loves you, the feeling of ownership disappears. You can go out with an all-male group, and he doesn't care. You can post revealing pictures on social media, and he doesn't even notice. You can tell him that someone is pursuing you, but he has no reaction at all. This is not about absolute trust, it's a sign of indifference. A man who loves you will want you to be his, while a man who no longer loves you won't care who you're with. He no longer argues or stands his ground when someone else shows interest in you. In the past, if someone showed interest in you, he would react immediately. He might not act overly jealous, but he would certainly express his discomfort or make sure you knew he didn't like it. But when he no longer loves you, he stops paying attention to such things. If someone flirts with you, he just shrugs or ignores it. If you tell him that someone is pursuing you, he responds with an indifferent "Oh, really?" If he used to dislike you getting too close to others, now he doesn't care whether you set boundaries or not. When a man no longer cares about the possibility of you belonging to someone else, it means you are no longer important to him. Even when you try to provoke him, he doesn't react. Have you ever intentionally created situations to see if he would get jealous? For example, telling him about a guy who always takes care of you. Casually texting another man in front of him. Posting pictures of yourself having fun with a group of male friends. If he still loves you, he will definitely react. He might not make a big scene, but he will at least ask questions or show some discomfort. But if he just nods, says nothing, doesn't react, or doesn't even look at you, then that's a clear sign he no longer cares about you. What should you do if you notice this sign? If you realize that he no longer gets jealous or cares about what you do, take some time to reflect on your relationship. Have an honest conversation with him. Some men are not good at expressing their feelings, but if you notice growing indifference, ask him directly. Observe his overall attitude towards you. If it's not just about jealousy but also a general lack of interest in you, then his feelings may have truly changed. Don't deceive yourself. If you keep trying to make him jealous but get no reaction, ask yourself if you are holding on to someone who no longer loves you. In the end, jealousy is not everything in a relationship, but care and attention are. If a man no longer gets jealous, doesn't care where you go or who you meet, it's a clear sign that his feelings have changed. True love is not about control, but it's also not about indifference. If you feel like you are becoming invisible in your relationship, maybe it's time to reconsider whether this is the love you truly want. Sign 7. He no longer talks about a future together. When he no longer wants to walk the road with you. One of the most important signs that indicate whether a man still loves you is how he talks about your future together. When he is in love, he will always have long-term plans that include you, from small things like where to go on the weekend or what to eat, to major life decisions like financial planning, career goals, marriage, and starting a family. However, if you notice that conversations about the future are becoming less frequent or that he avoids the topic whenever you bring it up, this is a clear sign that his feelings have changed. A man who no longer includes you in his future plans is either uncertain about the relationship or no longer wants to be with you in the long run. How to recognize this sign? He no longer talks about long-term plans. When his feelings were still strong, he was always excited to talk about future plans with you. Where should we buy a house in the future? Once things settle down, let's travel to Europe together. I want our future kids to go to the best schools. These kinds of statements show that he truly saw you as an important part of his future. But now, things have changed. When you bring up marriage, he just gives vague responses or changes the subject. When you ask about his long-term plans, he gives generic answers like, "I don't know yet," or "we'll figure it out later." He only talks about his own future without mentioning you at all. If he used to include you in his plans but now remains silent or avoids the topic, he is likely uncertain about the relationship. He avoids conversations about marriage. Marriage is an important topic in a serious relationship. If a man truly loves you and wants to commit, he will bring it up in some way, whether directly or indirectly. However, when he no longer loves you, marriage becomes a subject he constantly avoids. When you mention weddings, he immediately changes the topic or laughs it off. When others ask about your future together, he doesn't give a clear answer. When you ask about a potential wedding date, he just says, "That's far off," or "Let's talk about it later." This avoidance isn't because he's not ready, it's because he no longer wants to think about a long-term future with you. He no longer cares about shared plans. When a man loves you, he will always have shared plans with you, whether big or small, saving money together for something important. Planning a trip months in advance. Building a life and career together. But if he no longer wants to do anything with you, it's a clear sign that you're no longer an important part of his future. When you suggest making financial plans together, he's uninterested. When you want to plan a trip, he just gives indifferent replies like, "Whatever you want," or "I'm too busy, let's see." When you want to learn a new skill together, he doesn't care. This lack of enthusiasm shows that he no longer sees a future with you. His future plans revolve only around himself. When he was in love, all his plans included you. He would talk about work, career goals, and dreams while considering how both of you could achieve them together. But as his feelings fade, you will notice that he only talks about his own future. He starts making plans without discussing them with you. He talks about moving somewhere else, changing jobs, or traveling alone, without mentioning you. When you ask about his plans for next year, he only talks about himself, with no mention of you. If he once said we but now only says I, this is a clear sign that you are no longer part of his future. He feels irritated when you ask about the future. One of the most obvious signs that a man no longer loves you is his reaction when you talk about the future. He sighs or looks bored when you bring up long-term plans. He gets annoyed when you mention marriage or children. He avoids the topic or says things like, "Why do you keep bringing this up?" In reality, a man who truly loves you won't feel bothered when you talk about a future together, because he wants it too. But if he becomes frustrated every time you bring it up, it means he no longer wants a long-term commitment. What to do if you notice this sign? If you realize that he no longer talks about a future together, try the following: have an honest conversation with him. Ask him if there's a reason behind his change in attitude and whether he still sees a future with you. Observe his behavior. If he truly loves you, he will reassure you and provide clear plans. But if he keeps avoiding the topic, his feelings may have already faded. Don't deceive yourself. If you've tried everything and he still doesn't change, it may be time to reconsider the relationship. A man who doesn't plan a future with you won't be able to give you a happy and secure life. Final thoughts. When a man truly loves you, he will always want you to be part of his future. He will talk about plans, dreams, and always hope to walk with you until the end of the road. But when he no longer loves you, his future will no longer include you. Love is not just about temporary feelings, it's about long-term commitment. If someone no longer wants to build a future with you, ask yourself whether this relationship is still worth holding on to. You deserve a love where you are always an essential part of the future. Conclusion. Love is not only expressed through words but also through actions, care, and future plans. When a man gradually becomes distant, the signs become clear: he contacts you less, no longer cares about your feelings, avoids spending time with you, stops showing affection, becomes easily irritated, is indifferent to what you do, and most importantly, he no longer talks about a future together. These changes do not happen suddenly but occur gradually, leaving you confused and wondering if you are overthinking. But the truth is, when someone stops loving you, he will slowly withdraw from your life, no matter how hard you try to hold on. So, what should you do when you recognize these signs? Have an honest conversation. Don't be afraid to ask about his feelings. If a man still loves you, he will want to reassure you and work on rekindling the relationship. But if he continues to avoid the topic or gives unclear responses, that is the answer you need. Respect your own feelings. Don't stay in a relationship just because you fear loneliness. You deserve to be loved wholeheartedly, not to receive only indifference and half-hearted attention. Be ready to let go if necessary. If you have tried but nothing changes, perhaps it's time to free yourself and seek a love that truly values you. True love is not about reluctance, it is about mutual commitment and willingness from both sides. If he no longer holds you in his heart, be strong enough to walk away and open yourself to the better things ahead. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I hope today's discussion on love has given you new perspectives and valuable lessons. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your loved ones. I truly appreciate your support, and I hope each video helps bring you closer to a happy and fulfilling love. See you in the next videos. Wishing you a wonderful and inspiring day.